Hello everyone, this is Shun and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show off the deck that I brought to and took third place at the Newtype challenge. So this is my blue-purple Blockerless Barbatos deck. It runs most of the same cards as the basic BP Barbatos, but I completely dropped the blockers. I also dropped some of the blue pingers, which lets me run more aggressive cards. Grunts, or the 2-2-2-1 units, are really important in decks like these. You want to have at least 2 on board before you attack with your base breakers. This deck runs 4 Grace Customs and 4 O Gundam, which is on the low side since I don't run the gun tanks. I felt there were too many games where I played them early without targets, or I sacrificed tempo and hold them in my hand. I honestly think 8 is a good spot in an aggro deck if it has other strong early plays. So in my deck I run 4 Barbatos First Forms and 3 Hackerin. Pretty basics for BP Barbatos. Each of them requires some form of assist cards to be able to break bases by himself, but the deck is filled with those, so it's pretty easy to do. So, as I said before, I run less pings than other BP decks, but I make up for board control by being more aggressive. I do run 4 Barbatos Adepts and 2 each of NT1s and Barbatos Lupus. Adepts are definitely the new MVP for BP Barbatos decks. Having another set of Mikazuki makes the deck more consistent. Plus, being a 2-4 body lets me take care of multiple grunt units. NT1 is slower than Anksha, but being able to hit unit for 1 damage then swing into another when linked is amazing. Even better if paired with Mika, because now you ping for 2 and still draw for NT1's ability. Lupus is not as amazing as I had hoped, but still a great card in this deck. I might not be able to do heavy damage with its ability like other pure Teganon decks, but 7-6 unit when linked is still a threat. As for support units, I run 4 starter deck Gundam and 3 Roe. Gundam has seen play since the beginning of the card game. Fantastic card, and honestly not as broken as Amuro. Turns my Hackerins into a base breaker and allows my grunts to trade into my opponent's 4-3 units. Also, being able to take care of opponent's grunts for free, even without being paired, is nice. Roe is also another great support unit. It's essentially a weaker Iron and Blood on my body, and like the Gundam, turns Hackerins into a base breaker, and having 4 HP body makes it harder to be removed from damage effects. Also, Mika can link with it, bringing its AP to 5, which can break bases that may show up from the opponent's burst triggers. 4 Mikazukis and 4 Amuros, the bare minimum requirement for a BP Barbatos deck. There's really not a lot I need to say about these two. They're strong. There's a lot of link targets for Mika, and Amuro's just a broken pilot to begin with. However, if Amuro ever gets banned, I think this deck will be strong regardless. Amuro himself isn't needed for Gundam or NT1's ability, and there's other 2 AP pilots like Laughter that works in the deck. I run 4 Fatal Strikes and 2 Show Resolves. Fatal Strikes are definitely needed against an aggro heavy meta, but I think I don't need to run 4. And 2 Show Resolves I think is a perfect number for decks like these. You don't want your hand filled with copies of Show that you can't play, but you want to say at least 1 when you get to mid game. In this version of the deck I run 3 Corsica base and 1 Isaribi. Corsica is still the best base for aggro decks, and in most cases you want to see at least 1 in your hand by your 3rd turn. I do run an Isaribi instead of a 4th Corsica base because its ability to buff damage units is great in a clutch. So as a test, I did also run 1 each of Paptimus and Zio to see if I can have a chance if the game ever goes into late game. And in conclusion, no. Out of 5 rounds I played at this Newtype challenge, I saw both limp together in my hand once, and I was able to win without playing them. I don't think they're worth cutting other cards to put in this build of the deck. Okay, so this was my BP Blockerless Barbatos. pretty much the same as the basic version, but tweaked to match the meta. That day, I played against Age, Red Purple Pink, 2 BP Barbatoses in a row, and a Purple White deck. I did lose on round 3 to the BP mirror because I misplaced and forgot to heal a damage on a Gundam, and destroyed a grunt unit instead of taking out the opponent's NT1. Deck itself ran great, except for against RP Ping on round 2, where I started the game after a mulligan with 2 Fatal Strikes in hand, and quickly drew another when they had no targets on their side of the board until late game. However, I did end up winning because those Fatal Strikes took out units when my opponent decided to go wide. If I had to change the deck, I would most likely, definitely, draft a Optimus in the O for another Hakuren and probably a Barbatos 4th form. There were games where I could have finished earlier if I had another attacker on board. Overall, it was a great experience, and this was my second Newtype challenge in a row where I took top 4. So, hoping next time I could take first place. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.